Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Or, if you're new, welcome. Today, we are going to be finishing off our guide for the Zone of Contamination by covering all of the ins and outs of the Langston Mine. For those of you who don't know, this is a part 2 for this region, with the general region itself being covered in the last part. Also, keep in mind that if you want to vote on the next region that I'm going to cover, I'm going to be counting the votes from the first part of the video. Any votes in this video won't be counted, so make sure that you go over to the other one to cast your vote. This part of the guide is going to be a little bit different from our normal region guides. Because of the way the Langston Mine is designed and how it is unavoidably linked to the Zone of Contamination's tail, we're going to be going into some things in a bit more detail than I normally would in this video. But I am still trying to keep that sense of exploration alive as well. While I did try to keep the last part of this region guide very spoiler-free for the tail, this part will definitely need a big ol' spoiler warning. This video will be going over some of the details and story locations of the Buried Echo's tail, so if you want to remain blind to that, then come back here after you've had a chance to experience it for yourself. But, with that said, and without any further ado, let's get right into it. Alrighty. It took me a while to figure out exactly how I wanted to go about tackling this video. Did I want to cover every single path, nook and cranny in the mine? Did I want to only cover the necessary stuff for the tail? What to do. But eventually I landed on this. Today, the video will be broken up into two separate sections. The first section is a navigation guide, where the entire goal is to make sure that you will never get lost in the Langston Mine ever again. In that section, we'll be exploring all of the entrances to the mine, how to navigate between them, key locations, and methods to ensure that you won't get lost on the way. The second section is going to be a guide for the tail, meaning that we'll be going over how to find and access the different areas and items required to complete the tail as it pertains to the mine. But nothing else before or after that. That part of the tail is up to you to solve. So let's get started with the first section. Before diving into navigation too deeply, let's first review the entrances and a couple of tips that will help you stay safe while traversing through these haunted halls. In the first part of this video, we found all of the entrances to the Langston Mine. The back entrance at Miner's Footpath, the pit mine entrance at the pit mine next to the concentrator building, elevator entrances A, B, and C, as well as the chute entrance, all four of which are accessed through the concentrator buildings, and finally, the finale entrance, accessed from the top of the main concentrator building. So make sure that you remember how to get to each of these entrances. I have a few tips that I want to give you guys before we start walking around the depths. The first tip I want to mention is, depending on how much exploring of the Buried Echo's tail you've done, you may have the respirator on your survivor when traversing the mine. My tip is to not worry about that thing at all. The respirator is meant to protect your survivor against the toxic gas that fills certain areas of the mine. I cover the specifics of suffocation in this video about injuries and debuffs in the Long Dark, but all you need to know right now is that the toxic gases have no effect on your survivor other than starting the suffocation timer. If that timer reaches 0, you die instantly. But otherwise, there is no penalty for breathing in the toxic gas aside from the slightly blurred vision and fuzzy hearing. The reason that I mention this is that, provided that you aren't encumbered and have relatively full stamina, you can just run through almost every single toxic gas zone without having to use the respirator at all. So don't waste your time or gas canisters when traversing around. There's only one area inside the mine where you'll actually need it when running through, and also if you want to loot inside of toxic gas areas. But for the most part, you won't have to worry about it too much, and in fact, the only area where you do need it to run through isn't even part of the tail. So you technically don't even need the respirator at all to finish the Buried Echo's tail. Okay. The next tip that I have is to make sure that you leave a trail to follow when going off the beaten path. There are plenty of ways to do this. You can drop things like sticks or tinder plugs, but I have another recommendation. Guys, this will most likely be one of, if not the only time, that spray paint will actually prove to be genuinely useful. Due to how industrial the entire region of the Zone of Contamination is, you will almost certainly be finding an abundance of spray paint in and around the Langston Mine. If you are ever worried about getting lost or feel like going off the beaten path, utilize the spray paint. My recommendation, and this is what I do, is every time I find a split or an intersection, I spray an arrow pointing back towards the exit. By doing this, I can make sure that I'm not going to get lost when going through unknown areas of the mine. The final tip that I have for you is to make sure you bring light. While you will be finding a lot of lantern oil, flares, and torches inside the mine, you never know how much you will actually be needing. Make sure that you have backup plans for light sources, and leave the mine if you're running low. It is incredibly easy to run out of light in the wrong spot and leave your survivor stuck in pitch black darkness with no idea how to get out. A truly nightmarish way to go. Okay, with that stuff out of the way, let's get started with the walkthrough. We're going to be entering the mine through the elevator entrances, starting with A and ending with C. We're starting here because the elevator entrances, A and B, actually connect to extremely simple areas of the mine that block off fast and don't connect back to the rest of the mine for the most part, which makes it a very good way to start tackling this maze. So enter the headframe building, climb down to the first entrance, and make your way through the doors, and I will see you in there. Alright, here we are at the elevator A entrance. We're going to walk down it until we find a split right here. First, we're going to go left. To the left here, you'll find this little place. I left the door open, but normally the door will be closed. Now, one thing I want to point out is that there's going to be a lockbox with a unique collectible inside this trailer. The key for that collectible can be found in the same floor of the mine that we're on right now. So, if you now take this path to the right, you'll find another split. So, to the left is where you can find the key for that lockbox. But this is the one area I was talking about where you actually will need the respirator. So, let's put that on now. You're going to go, and you're just going to stick to the left. Whenever there's a split in the path, you go left. And then you'll find this corpse. Looting it gets you the lockbox key. Now, the next thing is to the right here. There's going to be a section of smog, but you do not need the respirator to get through it. You can just run, and eventually you'll get to the other side. Oh, take this right. And you'll get out over here. No more suffocation. Made it all the way through just by running. And the important thing to note here is that this is actually the chute entrance. So, going down the chute brings you down to this first floor of the mine, which you can use to get back to the elevator. Or you can use this as a way to get back from the elevator without having to use the rope climb. Another thing to note is that if you follow this path a little bit longer, you'll find that it stops at this gate. This gate is locked, but we'll come back to this gate later, so just keep this in the back of your head. See, that wasn't so bad. And the next entrance is even simpler than that one, so let's keep this ball rolling and head straight to it. I'll see you down there. Elevator entrance B. This floor doesn't have anything too remarkable on it, no fun collectibles like the first floor had, but there is one place that I do want to show you. Follow these tracks for a good long while, taking this right, and you'll eventually find this very big, very cool room. There's nothing too special, but it is a very cool area, and it does a very good job of really giving a very abandoned feeling to this mine. The almost megalophobic level of this machine is just very awesome for the aesthetics of the entire mine as a whole. I told you it was easy. So simple, right? I'm sure you're thinking, that wasn't so bad. Maybe I was being dramatic about this whole mine thing. It seems pretty easy. Up. Before you finish that sentence, here's the map of the mine. Okay, see it? Perfect. Here's what we've been through. Might look like a lot, but there aren't any loops and barely any connections to other areas of the mine in what we've done already. I can see that your stomach just dropped, so why don't we head down to elevator entrance C and then grab it before we continue. We are now officially in the main area of the Langston Mine. From here, I have two goals. Show you guys the path to the other two mine entrances, and show you some of the key locations within the mine that you won't want to miss. From this point onward, remember that I won't be showing you everything that there is to find within these twisting halls. So if you see any extra areas or paths that seem interesting, check them out. Just remember the tips that I gave you before so you don't get lost or stranded. Alright, let's get started. Alright guys, elevator entrance C. As you can see, this is a much larger area with a lot more fun stuff to look at. I won't give away all of it, but you can get up to all of these different levels here. There's a lot to explore, and it's very, very fun. I also want to point out that over here, to the left of the entrance, is another pathway, Remember this pathway for later because it's going to be important down the line, but for now, we're not going to pay too much attention to it. Alright, let's recenter ourselves. Get back to where you were right outside the elevator door. Now, we're going to make our way towards the pit mine entrance. Walk over here and you'll find this large tunnel. One thing to note, in this main area of the mine, you will occasionally walk across these gas lanterns mounted on the wall. Lighting them is a permanent little light source that provides a little bit of illumination for the areas around you. They're not everywhere, but when you find one, lighting one's a pretty good idea. From here, you can see all this gas that's in this next room. Another situation where you can just run right through it and you'll be fine. So, run straight through the gas, and you'll go through this big chamber. If you want to stop to loot, make sure you have a gas can to help you breathe. Go to the other side, another lantern, and you can keep going. And just like that, you've reached the pit mine entrance. Alrighty, now you guys know how to get to the pit mine entrance from the elevator entrance C. But now I'm going to show you guys how to get to the back entrance, but with two little extra things on top. First, there is an area over here that is blocked by boards that has to be braked by a hatchet. So to go this direction, make sure that you have a hatchet on you. Second, there's a huge chunk of this path that is very linear. So once we get to that spot, I'm actually going to stop guiding you through at that point so that you guys can experience most of it for yourself. So let's get going. You're going to go down the same hallway that you went to get to the pit entrance. But once you reach the first lantern, you're going to take a right instead. This path will go for a good little while, and eventually, you'll reach another large open room. One thing I want to point out is that this is an area that has the boss's quarters. Definitely a spot worth checking out. Getting back down to the tracks now, follow where the two tracks go, and eventually, you'll find a way that you can turn to the right. Take that right path, and it'll go for a little while, but you're going to want to keep going until it comes to another junction. Eventually, you'll see some toxic gas. This will also be fine for you. You can just run right through it. Take a right at that junction, and then you'll reach the point with the planks. At this point, the toxic gas will be gone, so you won't need to worry about getting trapped here and suffocating. Break apart the planks, and then continue through. And that's where I'm going to actually leave you, because from here, it is a very linear path, and there's not going to be very many splits. Now, while the area I just left you at does stay fairly linear for a while, it does eventually open up into a fairly complex area that surrounds the back entrance to the mine. So, we're actually going to go there now, and I'll guide you back towards the other end of that path that I just put you on. Alright, now we're at the back entrance. As you can see, very different location. From here, you're going to walk forward, and the path will lead you to a small rope climb. At the bottom, you'll have a path that goes forward, and quickly splits into two directions. One thing to note is that if you go to the left, there's going to be a room with a fire barrel. If you don't have a whole lot of light options, you can start a fire here and pull a bunch of torches out to make sure you have a lot of backups. But with that said, if you go to the right, you're going to keep following the path until you find this little ramp. Go down the ramp, it spirals a little bit, and then go forward some more until you find this ramp. It goes up, and there's another spot that goes down. Before we go down, I first want to show you this area up here. A very large cavern full of scaffolding. This place does have a dead end at the end of it, so you're not going to get lost. And it's got a lot of cool scenes, very good design in the environment, and a lot of fun loot to find. But now let's go down. If you go down, you'll be able to follow this path for a little while. And eventually, you'll find another split. Straight ahead of you is just a little loot corner that doesn't go very far, so you won't get lost. But to the left is the other end of the very long path that we found before. The very linear one. So, from here, I can leave you once again to find your way back to the elevator entrance. Keep in mind that if you are coming from the other direction, just follow the path we just took backwards to find your way to the back entrance. Alrighty, with that done, you should now be able to confidently make your way through the Langston Mine and to each of its entrances. However, Some of you may be thinking, Stars, you never mentioned the finale entrance? And to that I say, oh buddy, oh boy, thank you so much for the free segue into the next part of the video. What? I feel like that was smooth. That was cool. I was good. I did it. I'm so cool. Anyway, the reason that this entrance hasn't been mentioned yet is that this entrance is actually locked until you get to the point in the Buried Echo's tale where you get to the key to access it. Fortunately, I'm here to show you how to do just that. What you need to do first is get to the point in the Buried Echo's tale where you get the bolt cutters. After that, head through elevator entrance C. Now, recall back to when I mentioned this path to the left and said that we would come back to it later? Well, it is officially later. We're going to now head down that left path. There will be an area of toxic gas, but once again, you can just run through it, no problem. And you will eventually find this very large, very cool cavern. From here, you're going to want to go down these stairs and across the little walkway until you find this fence. You'll see a gate that's blocked with this lock. Go over to it, click on it, and you'll be able to break it with the bolt cutters and follow up the stairs. Once at the top, you'll get to a balcony that has a corpse on it. Loot the corpse, and you'll find the mine gate key. Once you have that key, you can make your way back to the finale entrance and prepare for the end of the tale. Now we're inside the finale entrance. This is a very simple path, so we're just going to start by following the tracks. The tracks will go on for a good while, and you'll pass through a couple toxic fog spots, but just like before, you can run right through them. Eventually, you'll reach a spot where the tracks are blocked off. From there, you'll be able to go back and find this small little corner over here that branches off in a different direction. There's a lamp there you can light too. This path will very quickly throw you into some toxic fog. Once again, you can just run through it, but you need to make sure that you turn the right directions. Even if you make a wrong turn or two, you should still be fine, but just to be safe, make sure you know which way to go before entering the toxic gas. Go through it, and at the first intersection, turn right. Then keep following it, and turn left at the next one. Then, you'll be back at the tracks. Super easy, super fast. Keep following the tracks to the right, and you will soon find yourself at a big junction of the tracks. After passing through one more gas area that you can just run right through, you'll find yourself at a big junction of tracks. And here's where I'm going to leave you guys to experience the end of the tale on your own. Because if you follow this track here, it'll loop around and there'll be a little path at the end of it. And through that path, you will find a big old door. And through here is the finale of the tale. Now, for the next part of this little walkthrough section, you're going to want to make sure that you've done the entirety of the final area inside of this next room, because part of that tale requirement is collecting 4 different key items. The next thing that we're going to do won't work unless you've collected all 4 of those items. Once you have the 4 items, make sure you leave the room and turn right and follow the path over here. There'll be some flooded tracks that'll lead you towards a locked gate. If you remember right, this gate was the same gate that we found locked next to the chute entrance. But because you found the 4 things, this gate is now magically open. It isn't for me because I haven't finished it on this specific save, but it will be for you. You can go through the gate and find your way back to the first floor of the mine, which you can use to get to the chute entrance or back to elevator entrance A. Alrighty guys, that's it for today's video. You now know everything that you need to in order to navigate the Langston Mine like a pro. As long as you don't run out of light in a bad spot or stamina in a toxic gas cloud, you'll never have to fear this mine ever again. And also, thank you all so much for 10,000 subscribers. Words cannot express how much you all mean to me, and I'm so incredibly thankful for the opportunities that I have because you all choose to watch a silly little goober like me. Some of you may remember that I mentioned that I will be dropping merch at 10k subs. Well, my artist and I have been working very hard at it, and it's not quite ready. Sorry about that. It turns out that setting up something like a merch store is much more complicated than I thought. but it is coming soon, so keep an eye out for an announcement about it. And with that said, if you liked the video, like the video. It helps out the channel a lot. If you want to see more from me, then grab the nearest fish and slap that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching. You're all amazing, and I will see you in the next one.